Okay, this is a short one. This is a question I have for you. I guess that means for me, since I'm the only one who watches these things. So I just heard that a governor put a bunch of migrants on a bus, and these included several children of very young age, anywhere from 2 to 9. And he sent them from his state to another state. Now, I heard this on CNN. It may or may not be true, but they've been pretty good about getting things right in the past. So I'm going to assume it's true for the moment. So these people were put on a bus, apparently without food or water. They were on that bus for some 20 hours. Now, my question for you was that governor a Republican or a Democrat? You know the answer to that. Can you imagine a Democratic governor doing something like that? You know he was a Republican. Now, my dad used to say, among other things, my dad was a very, very smart man. And he used to say that a man is known by the company he keeps. So the company, in this case, is a political party. No one is forced to register as a Republican. But if you do register as a Republican, you are in the same company of people like that governor. And I said, you don't have to guess, because this sort of meanness permeates the Republican Party. Now, I always get people saying, well, are you saying all Republicans are bad? Of course not. You're talking about a generality. All generalities are, by their very nature, have exceptions. And I've known many fine people who were registered Republicans for various reasons, some because of abortion, and they have legitimate philosophical differences, religious differences on the issue of abortion, and I respect those people. I don't think it makes much sense for them to be Republicans because of that one issue, but there are people who are. And that, of course, we know where the Republicans stand on that issue far more often than Democrats, and it's going to hurt them politically because most people just simply don't agree with them on it. I'm not saying where I stand one way or another. I'm just talking objectively. But so many people, there are people who don't like paying taxes. There are people who don't like government overreach and government regulations. They think there's too much government. Those are the same people, of course, who would take Social Security and Medicare, and if you ever tried to stop that, they'd have a heart attack. So, and I've seen that battle going on. Remember, when I was born, FDR was president, and I grew up hearing about how terrible Social Security was until, of course, those same people got old enough to want Social Security, and then all of a sudden the debate stopped. So, but I digress. There are many fine Republicans. I've had Republican clients. I've had Republican friends and clients and law partners. Excuse me. See that coughing because I'm allergic to Republicans. And good people. But good people or not, when you affiliate yourself with a party that these days it's the party of crazies. And you listen to Donald Trump going out, and I've always said I think he has a mental disease or defect anyway. That's the way he gets out there on the stuff and talks about himself all the time, and how terrible it is, and they're coming after me, and then he makes up all kinds of horrible, stupid allegations against the head of the FBI, the head of the Justice Department, the lawyers who were coming against him, just nonstop. Just vehement personal attacks on anybody and everybody. He's a nutbag, and you've got all these Republicans, like 70-80% of Republicans support him, think he's a fine person. Those are the people with whom you're associating if you're a Republican. And policies like this one of this governor who sent these people, and I'll tell you now, it was Greg Abbott sending these migrants from Texas to California, so he can make things tough for a Democratic state. He doesn't give a damn about what he's doing to these people. If these stories are true, and he did that to little kids, that's a vicious, vile person. And almost every time you hear about a governor or an official calling for or trying to do something which is just mean, it's almost always a Republican. So I make no apologies for ragging on these people. There are Republicans that I like. Mitt Romney, of course, he's really a rhino. But what's not like about Mitt Romney? I liked Ronald Reagan as a person, but his policies were horrible, just terrible. And we saw a TV show the other night about this Mexican American who invented these things for Frito-Lay that are spicy, appeal to Mexicans. And part of it talked about how when Reagan came in, they started slashing all the benefits for people, and then people started losing their jobs, benefits, and all that happened under Reagan. So, Ronald Reagan had some pretty bad policies. Particularly bad, it was slashing taxes for the wealthy, getting rid of government benefits that were necessary, and driving and tripling the national debt. He didn't have a great record. Also throwing around Contra, but he was a nice guy. He was an Irish guy. But he had a lot of. He was a decent human being. Had a very good manner about him. But he did pretty bad things as a president. Now, he did a couple of good things. He did a nuclear test ban treaty with Gorbachev, working with Gorbachev to basically get rid of the Soviet Union. That was good. So I give him credit for that. But so I liked Ronald Reagan, but I just don't. I think his record was not great. In fact, it was pretty awful when it came to the national debt. George Bush Jr., my favorite Republican today. Nice guy, decent human being, it's the kind of guy you love going to have a beer with. Not a Bud Light, but I don't even drink beer anyway, so an Irish whiskey, whatever. But he's a decent guy. He's been really nice with the Obamas. He's friends with Bill Clinton. You can tell he's a decent human being, but his policies were pretty awful. And I had an antitrust case in the United States Supreme Court. And it was dealing with his Justice Department. He put people in that Justice Department who were basically right-wing fanatics. He had a head of the Justice Department, was a former senator from Missouri, who was a guy that was notorious for covering up the statue of justice because he didn't want her bare breasts being shown in the halls of justice. And so I went up against. I had an antitrust case that didn't involve the government. The government, under the Bush administration, came into the case, tried to throw out a fundamental principle of the antitrust laws. I'm sure Bush had no knowledge that was going on, right under his nose. He just picked people out of the party, and this often happens. Prominent people from the party, whichever party it is, get put in positions of importance and often power in the administrations, and that's what happened with this Bush administration. With the Justice Department. So what he did with the national debt, it's just ironic hearing Republicans complain about the national debt. What he did was horrible. Bill Clinton was running a surplus, I think, in the last 3 years. He had, I think, $200-300 billion in a surplus, and that surplus was earmarked to pay down the national debt. George Bush, when he came in, took that surplus and handed it out to people, including his brother, as the governor of Florida. Just took that money and got rid of it instead of using it to pay down the debt. And then he slashed taxes again, which is Republicans always do this. And as a result, the national debt exploded under him. Donald Trump did the same thing: slashed taxes, increased spending. The national debt exploded under him. Under Barack Obama, the annual deficit was going down. Under this present president we have, the deficit's going down. You would never know that listening to Republicans complaining about the national debt and the debt ceiling and all this debate we just had. But if you look at the figures, if you look at the facts, our deficit has been going down under Biden. It went down under Barack Obama. It went down way down under Bill Clinton, with us all the way to a surplus. The Democrats actually are pretty good about doing something about the national debt. Republicans are pretty good about talking about it. So if you pay attention to what these people do, and this latest thing with Governor Abbott, it's the kind of thing that just sets my teeth on edge. You have to ask yourself, why do I support these people? and I'm saying this to my Republican friends, relatives, partners, clients. Why do you support these people? I know you don't want to pay taxes. I don't want to pay. Nobody wants to pay taxes. And if you're wealthy, which a lot of my clients are, then you're one of these people whose taxes are going to be raised, but not by much. So, just stop making everything about you. If you're that wealthy and you can afford to pay, a lot more in taxes and not really affect your lifestyle, then be willing to do it. Don't stick with the Republicans because, hey, they're good for my bottom line. And as far as the stock market is concerned, you look at it right now. We're going back and we now have a bull market, largely because of Biden's economic policies. So, and I could spend hours talking about that, but that's the reality. So, I don't know why I can't get through to so many of these people. I have gotten through to a lot. I can tell you that. I've had law partners and friends who have. And I think I credit myself to some extent with this, have seen the light and have left the Republican Party. And there's lots of people on the public stage who have done the same thing, like Joe Scarborough and Smerconic, and a lot of prominent people in the media who were Republicans and no longer are. But when you look at the rhetoric that comes out of Donald Trump, when you look at his conduct, and then when you look at the support he has with the rank and file and base of the Republican Party, and that includes not just the nutcase bases, but I mean regular, everyday Republicans supporting this man, you got to ask yourself, are these the people with whom I want to be associated? Do I want to have people judge me by the company I keep when that's the company I keep? So I'm not going to rag on Republicans anymore. It's just that every time I see something like this, and I heard that this was done with them, I knew immediately it was a Republican governor who did it. And I figured it was either DeSantis or it was this governor from Texas. It was going to be one of those two. And sure enough, it was Abbott. So, stop the meanness. Think about human beings as people. And stop pandering to the worst instincts in your base. So I hate to start this day on an unpleasant note, but what he did, assuming that's correct, assuming I got the correct information, what he did was pretty horrendous, and it needs to be called out.